it's hard for two of us on relative opposite ends of the spectrum to sit down and have a conversation without it degenerating into name calling.
I haven't found any difficulty. I think I'm very curious as to your viewpoints on things. I don't know whether or not you feel like calling me a name or something, but I haven't had that inclination. But maybe
Right,
talking
right.
about in general, that is a
Yeah, yeah.
possibility. But I think my hope is that other people can model the conversation that we're having,
Hmm.
which is an exchange of ideas. Now, I
Yeah.
might be more trying to convince you to my point of view, which is just my argumentative nature,
Then
but
that's your right.
yeah, but I mean, we're having a respectful conversation. So this is, I believe, possible for everybody who isn't set in their ideology and finding an enemy in the other. I don't see
Hmm.
you as an enemy.
Yeah.
I see you as a decent guy who's trying to do their best in life, as I see most people. The challenge
Yeah.
is that I find from the left-hand side of the aisle, that people like you are more rare than
Hmm.
common.
Sure.
And maybe
And
you find the same from me, from my side of the aisle. I don't know.
and I think if this kind of brings it back full circle, a lot of technology is responsible for that because we're sort of face to face with each other. And otherwise, in comment sections or just going back and forth, I guess it mostly is in sections, but on discussion boards and things like that, there's not that personal connection. And this goes back to
Yes,
how
that I
technology
agree with.
can depersonalize us and keep other people at a distance. And if you can treat somebody as other, you can slap whatever label you want on them. You can read what they say or what they type however you want.
That is true. It is depersonalized, and people write comments that they would never say to somebody's face because there's not the
Yeah.
chance that somebody's going to slug them. There's a real world repercussion
Hmm.
regarding that, which is why without the personal relationships, without interacting in person, the world kind of deteriorates. And of course, you meet many more people. I would have never in the world
Oh
in
yeah.
my life met you and had this
Right.
conversation without technology. At the same time,
Hmm.
as you have stated, it's a double-edged sword where it can lead to negative ramifications for the
Hmm.
broader country and world.
Yeah. And what I'll add on to that is that this kind of conversation takes investment. It's hard. It's a lot easier to feel like, and this goes for both sides. Oh, I got that person mad, so I scored a point. Like, that's the easy way out, to just say something deliberately inflammatory in a comment and say, like, oh, you lost your cool, like, you don't know what you're talking about. This takes investment, this takes work. And I
Yeah,
think it's worth it, but it's hard for people to find it to be worth it.
yeah. I think that that's what separates somebody like you who plays basketball and practices and takes the AP classes and was taught by his family that hard work pays off and has been ingrained into him. And so many people with the instantaneous access to social media, and they see all of the Kim Kardashians and the influencers with earning hundreds of millions of dollars for doing very, very, very little. And they say, I want that. And that's what they aspire to, rather than interpersonal relationships of doctor visiting a patient and taking care of them gingerly, or a counselor who's doing like you, who's doing the best that they can to help a kid along for the minimal amount of time that they have them in their presence. That's a huge difference in our society, and we have to be able to find a way to readjust. Whether or not humanity does that,
Hmm.
it might end in our ultimate demise, but you never know.
Yeah, absolutely. And this all of this is not to dunk on the younger generation. I've seen amazing creativity and amazing ideas come from really young people, and they're doing some awesome stuff. So this isn't to stereotype anybody in a certain age bracket, but yeah, absolutely. I think the temptation, like you said, with technology is right in front of all of us to be disconnected from people, and to not be mindful of what's going on right in front of us.
Mindfulness, we're back to that. It
Yeah.
is being mindful. It's about taking the time and connecting with people. And I think that if we get one thing out of this conversation, aside of Isaiah maybe going down to a 3 on the guilt scale, it's mindfulness and how important that is, just to take the time and sit with ourselves and sit with everybody else and understand that we all have the same basic wants, needs, desires, and recognize the truth in another person, the soul, the spirit, the Christ element, as
Mm.
you're a Christian inside of you, and you recognize that inside of me, and be able to love and appreciate that. And that's really the way just to interact on a general basis, and what really helps people get ahead in this world, if you're able to do that, because so few people are, that the ones that are able to are very much appreciated.